Man can live about 40 days without food, about 3 days without water, about 8 minutes without air, but only for 1 second without hope. Hal Lindsey.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Mentality. It's your boy Gambo, and today I have a special guest with me, Reese the Poet. We're going to be discussing the topic on hope. Is hope just a distraction, or is it the only thing that we actually have control of? Stay tuned as we chop it up in another interesting episode. All right, welcome back to the show, guys. I am here today with Reese the Poet.
Yo, yo.
Reese is a good friend of mine. He is someone who works with the youth. He is a traveling speaker, a thought leader, and just a overall deep thinker and a good person. And I'm happy to have you on the show today, man. Can you tell the people a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, man, it's a pleasure to be here. Honor. I don't know about a thought leader. I don't know if I think too much, but no, I'm just kidding. But yeah, man, I work with the youth. I'm a traveling speaker. I teach life skills with the Boys and Girls Club actually, and so I travel to different high schools, elementary school, middle school, and I teach life skills, healthy relationships, dating, sex, boundaries, friendships, all of those things, the intangible stuff that they don't really get in school. They teach them how to pass the test and they don't teach them about passing life. So that's kind of what I do with that. And just, outside of that, just doing music, working with the kids, um, and really just trying to do everything that I can to be the best that I can to impact the world as much as I can. I
Mm,
think that's the best way to do it.
I like that. I like that. I appreciate you for being on here today, brother. How you doing now?
Man, I'm great. Busy as a one-legged chicken in a soccer match, but, you know.
I heard that. All right, look, man. So today I wanted to talk to you about hope. And I know when you and I were chopping it up, we were just kind of discussing about hope, and the conversation kind of started going towards, is hope something that I don't want to say is something that matters, but it's more so, is hope something that we kind of cling on to? Is it basically a distraction, or is it the only thing that we truly have control of? So obviously, it's a loaded question. It's a topic that can take many routes and take different facets. But I want to get your thoughts on this, and hopefully, we can have a fruitful and fun discussion out of this. So, what are your thoughts on that
Yeah.
initially?
Well, I mean, I think that hope is absolutely vital.
Hmm.
I think hope is probably, if not the most, one of the most important things in our lives as we know it. I feel like I don't believe you can go a day or a second without hope, honestly,
Hmm.
because I believe that hope is, if you think about it, if you have nothing to if there's nothing to hope for, there's nothing to look forward to, there's nothing to believe in, nothing to hold on to, then really, what are you doing in the first place? To me, nothing has any type of excitement or fervor. I mean, nothing. What's the point? It's just like if there's nothing to hope for, nothing to look forward to, nothing to believe in, what you doing?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a very good point. I'm gonna play devil's advocate really quickly though.
Okay.
So,
All right.
I think while hope is something that people could look forward to and something that could be important, I think maybe there are aspects in which hope could be a negative, where someone could be holding out for something that they believe is hopeful, but while they're holding out onto that thing, it is something that is kind of detracting them for what really matters in the moment.
Yeah. You know what? And I can agree with that. I mean, I think you got that girl that's holding out for that guy that she know ain't coming. You hopeful
Word,
for that.
word.
You swear up and down he's gonna come around. I know,
Exactly.
cause I know he loves me and he's gonna get it one day. All right, you set yourself up to get your feelings hurt,
Exactly.
or he's gonna change one day, or she's gonna change. Either way,
Right.
same thing. I think that it really depends on the context in which hope is applied, because I think there's a difference between having hope and blind faith,
Mm,
or a blinded wishful thinking.
mm,
You know what I'm saying? Because when you begin to miss facts and reality, when you begin to lose the aspect, because I believe that hope, like it talks about, like in the Bible, it talks about faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen, but it's
mm,
based off of the thing that you believe. It's based off of the thing that you're working towards, that you know is coming, that you know this is a reality. You see what I'm saying? You're just acting as if it is already there. But when you talk about, look, if dude ain't called you, or she ain't called you, or the job says, look, you're not the person for it. These are the type of things that you have to find that balance of hope and wishful, blind thinking, if that makes sense.
That's a good point. Yeah, it makes sense. Can you please repeat that quote that you just mentioned? I'm trying to like wrap my mind around that.
Oh, faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen.
Man, can you explain that a little bit? That's deep.
Yeah, I know. So I mean, faith is essential because people always think about faith, and it's like, oh, I just believe it's gonna happen, and one day, and
Facts.
oh, but faith is far more than that. Faith
Mm,
is faith is tangible to me. I mean, it's spiritually tangible because I believe that faith is I know I know what I've been told. I know what I believe. I know what's
mm,
coming. I know that I have been put here for this purpose. You see what I'm
mm,
saying? And it's often applied to calling and purpose and the things that you have been meant to do. It's like I know that at some point in my life, I'm meant to speak to somebody, speak to people, and change the world. I mean, I know that, like it's in me. But
mm.
yet, is it manifested right now? I mean, sure, small scale with the kids, but I firmly believe that one day I'm supposed to stand on stages in front of 100,000 people.
Mm,
And so the faith, I have faith for that. So I'm going to continue to do what I'm supposed to do to be the best that I can be and be prepared for when that time comes
mm.
because I know it's coming. See what I'm
Okay.
saying?
Yeah.
And it's that evidence in my mind. It's like I know what I've already got. It just hasn't manifested itself yet.
Interesting. So I think already with a topic like this, we just took a tangent. So it sounds like we're right. I think it sounds like now we're like kind of delving into faith as opposed to like hope. I mean, there are aspects of hope and faith that I think go hand in hand, but I think faith is, as you kind of mentioned, is more of like a deep devotion to self. It's like more of like something that you know intrinsically, right? You kind of hold that deep and near in you as a human being. Whereas I feel like hope is a little bit more, and again, this could be just my jaded, description of hope. I think it's
Right.
something that's more outward. Hope is, I think, something that you kind of long for. Hope is something that you
Mm-hmm.
aspire. Hope is something that you look forward to. Whereas I feel like faith is more, well, if practiced properly, I would say is, something inside of you. Granted, I'm not a man of like the scripture or anything like that. I'm just
Right,
speaking
right,
as
right. I got you.
someone who's spiritual and where I'm
Yeah,
coming from that perspective. But
yeah,
that's the way I look at it. So I think when we go back to the question of, is hope a distraction or is it the only thing that we truly have control of? I think when I'm thinking of that question
yeah.
in my head, like the way it's coming out is, if someone has hope, so to speak, is that the one and only thing that they can truly like hold and make their own and like feel good about themselves about, or is it simply a whisper in the air out in the abyss that's kind of like attracting them, that's deviating from what really is present in the current or what's really important around them?
Yeah, yeah.
So I can give an example unless you get
Okay.
what
No,
where
go
I'm
ahead, go
coming
ahead.
from.
What you got? What you got? Yeah,
All right, so I mean, I'm going to just make this off the fly. Like
yeah.
an example of, like, you gave a really good one actually. Someone in a relationship, right? So you in a relationship with somebody who you feel like is not really working out,
All
and you feel like, well, I have hope, right?
right.
Is that
Yeah,
hope really just a distraction of you kind of like ignoring all the other signs of like, well, maybe I should take life, by what I have right now and make the right
right,
decision, or am I just gonna like let this thing in the far abyss elude me and draw me in because I feel like I have hope that this person is gonna change, and
right,
that could be applied to different facets outside of relationships. It could be applied to careers. It could be applied to
right,
people and their goals. It could be applied to a lot of different things and even
right,
negative things, unfortunately.
right.
So I guess like what do you make of that?
Yeah, it's interesting because hope in itself is essentially like a focused optimism. I mean, that's essentially
Mm,
what it is. I mean, I think that hope in itself it's an optimistic view of a potential outcome. You know what I mean, or a
right.
potential thing. So I don't think there's anything wrong with having hope. But when that hope blinds you from truth, that's when it becomes dangerous. So I yeah. So
I
so
feel
in
that.
that you see what I'm saying. So in
I feel
that
that.
regard, I would say that because I mean, for example, so is it? Here's a good example, and it hurts my heart a lot
Oh, I know what you're
because
gonna talk about.
you already know where I'm
I
coming from.
already know what you're gonna say.
Is my doggone these doggone Clippers in this Denver Nuggets series?
Oh man,
You know, man, I mean, because like I said, I mean,
hopeful.
I was hope. I mean, not even just
Right,
that. Let me tell you, I was so confident. Like I was like, yo,
right,
this is cut and dry. This makes
right.
perfect sense to me. Like these boys should be. But then what happened was, so look at this. I look at that series in particular, and I think about what lessons can we pull from that.
Mm,
And I think that is a perfect manifestation example of hope, of the
mm,
power of positive hope, the positive, the power of a belief.
mm,
Because I mean, you're talking about there is no reason on paper in the numbers, statistics, there is no reason that they should have won that series.
mm,
No reason. They didn't. The Clippers team was built far deeper.
mm,
They're supposed to be far better. They're the juggernaut, the favorites for the NBA championship. And then you're already down 3-1.
mm.
So it's like there's no any other team or anybody else would have been like, well, you know, it's it. We're just gonna ride this last game out and that's it. But that little bit of hope that they had is, you know what? Look, we ain't going home tonight. Hey fellas, no matter what happens, ride or die. But I believe there's a little kink in the armor. There's a little chink in the armor,
Mm.
and that gives us a little bit of hope that you know what? We ain't going home tonight. And that one thought lit a fire inside of every single one of them. That little spark was and then, you know, forgive me if I offend anybody because of the fires going on in California, but it's like a forest fire. It just spread
Mm.
like a brush fire throughout that team. And next thing you know, once they got close and won that first game, it exploded and turned into. And I looked up a definition of hope, and it says to expect with confidence.
Mm.
I thought that's deep
That's
right there.
profound. Yeah.
Yeah, I might have to write a blog or something about that. But
About the Clippers.
no. I already did a
I'm just
social
messing
media
with you,
post.
man.
Yeah, I did a social media post about that. I'm heartbroken, but it's okay.
Right.
But I mean, you saw. I mean, you could see it. The spirit was different.
Mm.
And the other thing is that hope, an overwhelming spirit of hope and belief, can literally break the back of any giant that you face. It can shrink it. It can grow to a point where it shrinks any obstacle that you face because you become so full of the ability. Like I know, you know what? I'm putting it all out on the field. I'm putting it all out on the court. I'm pulling it all out. And guess what, Giant? You like this? You may you ever seen what's the movie with Mel Gibson, Braveheart?
Braveheart. Yeah.
They said they can take our lives, but they will never take our freedom.
Mm.
And imagine what that little spark, that little inspiration, that intrinsic, when you have that hope inside of you that, you know what, even if I die, you gonna remember me. So I'm saying? So I think that there's a lot of different elements in there, but I think having that is what causes people to do amazing things personally.
Mm. And you know what? I think I totally agree with that. I think the most profound thing you mentioned is like on the onset of that segment right there, is when I can't remember word for word what you said, but basically along the lines of when hope starts to become something that you're holding on to that's like negative, right?
Right,
You're hoping for something that's like and it's becoming like a negative.
right,
That's definitely never a good thing.
right,
On the flip side of that, it's usually not a bad thing to have hope. I would
right.
absolutely agree with that. And there's conviction that comes along with hope, which maybe could be manifested into faith, and that's
For
certainly a
sure.
different route. Um,
Yeah,
since we did kind of get a little deep, I kind
yeah,
of want to get your thoughts on like applying the same premise of what we just talked about
yeah.
on the current state of our country. So like
Okay.
what all like the racial stuff that's going
Yeah.
on, and all the police stuff that's like all of that stuff. Now, I don't mean to put you on the spot or nothing like that.
No,
We
you good.
certainly
You
don't have
good.
to
You
delve
good.
into it, but like, should people who look like us still continue to have faith, right, on a system like that's currently in existence, or
Right.
do you think that hope? You think should we have hope in a system like that, or you think that hope is something that is a distraction, or is that hope the only thing that we really can control? Because it
Uh,
really does get deep into levels like that. But Rock
Yeah, he
said,
does.
"Hope." What do you say? Hope. That was his. That was his slogan.
Yeah.
So like, yeah.
I say it like this, man. I think that I say absolutely
Mm,
because the moment that we lose hope, we lose fight, and the moment that we lose fight, we lose the battle. And the moment you lose the battle, you lose the war.
mm,
Because back in the day, back in the old days of ancient warfare, no matter what battle you fought, men fought to the end. Period. And so I would say that personally, I'm gonna tell you, if I could give you an example of what I would hope to implant in every single person's heart, honestly, anybody who's fighting any type of issues,
mm,
all the injustices and all the oppression and all the challenges you face, I would always show you a picture of the flower and the concrete.
mm.
Because I believe that in the midst of overwhelming circumstances in the storm, there's always a little ray of sunshine. And I would say we have to be that sunshine. We have to be that light. Because imagine if we turn around and lose hope, lose faith, then the system that is claimed, if the system is claimed to be against us, and the whole system, if the idea is that the system is against us and designed to break us, then would it not be successful?
Damn, you got me. Solid. Yeah.
I mean, then in that case, we have literally think about it. You look at like Martin Luther King, right? Think about it. You think about Bloody Sunday. You think about all the things that they went through,
Mm.
but he never broke his spirit. You never saw him lose his cool. You never saw him, like I say, never let him see you sweat, never let him see you bleed, that kind of thing.
Mm.
I think the reality is that we have to elevate ourselves like eagles. I mean, think about it. What I think we were talking about before, we're talking offline about eagles,
Right.
and that eagles are the only birds that when the storms come and all the other birds and everybody else is running and going, trying to hide and trying to get into the trees and trying to get caught up in all these other things to be covered from the rain and covered from the storm. And oh my gosh, I can't get. What do eagles do? They elevate.
Right.
Eagles rise above the storm and they soar. And so we, as a people, as a nation, I believe honestly, we are in a beautiful, unique opportunity right now.
I totally agree. Absolutely.
I think we're in a great place because we have an opportunity to redefine what it means to be an American. We define what it means to be a black man or a black woman or a white person or a person in general.
Mm.
We have the ability to redefine what it means to be human.
I agree. I think during the most challenging and conflicting times evolves, you know, more upgraded or evolved people. That
Absolutely.
friction, that challenge, typically will birth something out of diamonds. That pressure will bring something that's like fruitful to life. Hopefully, it's
Absolutely.
usually for the better. So I would absolutely agree with that sentiment. I definitely want to like also add though, like I think to also clarify rather.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like a lot like that is very true. But at the same token, I think hope alone is not enough, and that's like not for just what we're talking about. I think that's for anything because I think like action itself is not really what I mean. Like hope doesn't really bring action. I don't really think. I think it's the other way around. I think action brings hope.
Okay.
If
Yeah.
when I look at it, I think once you do something, then you feel inclined to do something else. You see something done, then you have the hope to also want to do something. So I think as important as hope is for any fight that we fight, and whether that's injustice in our space or whatever that we're going through, whether it's an internal battle, an external battle as human beings, I think action should always be at the forefront.
Right.
And that's just like my perspective on that.
Okay.
Um, but
Can
yeah,
I? Oh,
go ahead.
I was gonna just when you said something, it just chimed in
Mm,
my little ears. I would say that I think they're both equally important.
mm, for sure,
I think it's two sides of the same
for
coin
sure,
because I believe if you have action without hope, then you'll have poor action.
absolutely.
If you have hope without action, then you just have a dream. I think you need a balance of both because I look at with my kids, working with these kids.
Mm-hmm.
One, it's easy to lose hope working with some of these kids because
Mm,
they come from these backgrounds. You don't think you can fix them. You don't. There's nothing I can do for this kid. They're
right.
lost. It's easy to write these kids off, and I've seen workers and staff workers. They come into these youth centers, all bright tailed, bushy tailed, and bright eyed, and thinking they gonna come in there and change the world. And when they face some adversity and watch these kids, like I had a kid disappear uh, out of nowhere.
Mm.
13 years old, he vanished. Next thing I know, I find out 8 months later, they're like, oh yeah, he didn't got jumped in. He with a gang and all this kind of stuff. And,
Right.
and I poured into this kid nonstop for like a year,
Right.
and that could easily break somebody. I've seen, and then what happens is they begin to treat the kids just like cattle. They begin to just kind of push them in and out because it's like, what's the point?
Mm.
Like I'm working, yeah. I'm telling you, you shouldn't do that, but I don't
Right.
really have any hope that you can change. So I think there's a good balance of both that is needed in order to truly make a real impact. So I would just throw that out there.
Yeah, nah, for sure. I totally agree with that too, man. I feel like, and even what the example that you just gave him, I feel like I can speak to that on a personal level. Like, coming from the background that I came from, it wasn't always sunshine and roses. Like,
Yeah.
I come from like those neighborhoods that these kids are
Right.
coming
Right.
from,
Right.
and even I remember even in high school, like my guidance counselor, which not no knock on her, but realistically, I feel like we didn't get really the best advice,
Yeah.
and that's because there really was no hope for us. We were kind of
Right.
written off.
Right.
So I feel like you're right. Someone who's in that position is taking action, but at the same token, another key or vital part of them taking action is that hope for you.
Yeah.
Them really believing that you could probably succeed,
Absolutely.
and that hope wasn't really there. If it wasn't the hope that I had for myself, or rather, I really should say the faith, because I feel like that was
Right.
drilled inside of me, and knowing that I could rise above that environment, knowing
Mm-hmm.
that I could rise above what like people might have thought was predestined for me.
Right.
It could have went completely south. And so I think
Absolutely.
you're right. People who are in any struggle, any conflict, should certainly apply action and hope. I think I was just kind of trying to say, like, I think action brings hope and not the other way around. So yeah, they definitely are both absolutely, absolutely vital. I
Yeah.
would not disagree with that.
I agree. It's like a snowball effect.
Exactly.
You put a little snowball up for that little action. That one little action causes the ball to roll.
Right.
And the more you do it, those little victories, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. The next thing you know, you're crushing a car.
Mm,
No, but seriously though, it's the same concept. I
right.
agree.
Yeah. I mean, damn. I feel like we agreed on a lot of this. I was hoping that we would disagree on some of it. So,
Oh yeah,
nah, but it's all good. I mean, I think you made a lot of solid points that I really can't disagree with, and I totally agree with that. But I mean, so I'm gonna ask you a question. Like,
what's up?
there been like a time where you were like you just gave a similar example? Has there been a time in your personal life where you kind of were in the crossroads of what we're talking about, where you felt like you wanted to have hope, but it was almost like, man, I don't even know if I can have hope. And like, what was that like for you? What would you do to kind of get up out of that?
Oh man. Okay, so um, man, there's been a lot of times where I found myself in that place. Where
Mm,
I find myself standing at the crossroads of press on or check out. You know what I
right.
mean? Um, I would say the most challenging moment of my life when I truly uh, was in that place was some years back. Um, I had a pretty devastating loss,
Mm,
um, and it was it was heavy because I long story short, and not to get too heavy on your
go ahead,
podcast
brother.
for the people and whatnot,
Mm,
but so I actually buried my son a week after I met him. Yeah, and so when I say that, I can tell you that right there is one of those moments that um, you never really, one, you don't expect, one, you can't plan for, you can't be prepared for, you can't. There's no answer. There's no magic button. There's no turn on the change the channel. There's no respawn like in video games. There's no there's really nothing
mm,
because it's completely out of your hands. You have no control. And what made it worse is I was like 8,000 miles away. He was in a whole different state, and I had just gone to visit. He had been born. I missed his birth. I came down there. I got to see him, and hung out with him. We watched movies. You know, he was telling me the facts of life and how to change the world and all that stuff. And it was all good. I didn't know what to expect. I was in a weird place coming out of the military. I was in the Marine Corps coming out, and
Mm.
you know, that was the one little like I just got out, and like now I got this kid. What do I do?
Yeah.
But at that moment, it was like, yo, wow. Like I'm looking at my face, and he looked just like me. Like he's like a little small version of me.
Right.
And and then of course I left, and 2 days later I get this call, and the one call that every parent dreads, and there's a lot of details in there, but it's essentially he was gone, and I had no explanations, I had no answers. Doctors couldn't tell me anything, mother couldn't tell me anything. I began to constantly think, is this my fault? Maybe if he was with me, maybe if I had been there, was this, you see what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
these are the type of questions that I had. And at that moment, I'm telling you, I was in college, went to school, and I didn't want to go back to school. I didn't want to do anything. I was doing music. I didn't want to do any music. I mean, to be completely transparent, man. I mean, I couldn't tell you how many times just thinking about it, just driving. I drove when I first got the call. I drove around the city all night, just drove,
Clear your mind, or
just trying to figure out what just happened. Because what do you mean he's gone? Like I mean, I just he was just there in my arms, and that was probably one of my lowest, moments of hopelessness. Um, you know, I, I couldn't tell you how many times I was like talking to God, like, yo, look, you can take me instead. What I mean,
mm.
and I actually wrote a piece about it, contemplating driving off the bridge, like I can go meet him and send him back. Like, what can I do? Um, but it was in that moment, um, I found my hope. Uh, my hope lied in the idea that what was it was interesting. The things that were drilled into me as a kid, like you said, the things that you were raised up on, is that faith and that hope. Is
Mm-hmm.
reminds me of a story, and people may not be particularly religious or any of that stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
there's a story in the Bible of David. And David, they fasted and prayed and cried, but then his child, passed away,
Mm-hmm.
and all the priests were like, "Oh crap!" You know what I'm saying? If we
Right.
tell David, he's gonna kill us. But when that happened, David stood up. He anointed his head. He washed himself because he hadn't done washed nothing.
Mm.
He got up. He washed himself. He shaved himself, cleaned up. He sat at the table, and he chose to eat. And essentially said, "I'm still here for a reason." And so for me, it resonated in my heart. It was like, as much as this hurts, and as much as I don't know where to turn or what to do, I firmly believe that nothing here is without purpose. And so if I'm still here, then I'm still here for a reason. And now I have to live this life. I have to live the life that he never got to. And so when I look at every single one of these kids that I work with now, I see him.
Mm.
Every single one of these kids, I look at that's what keeps me going, because I firmly believe that I'm gonna
Damn.
do everything I can to make these kids be the best that they can be, because I see him in them.
Right.
Because these are my kids. I'm teaching them everything that I would have taught him. I'm being the example that they probably don't have at the house, or that I would have been had he been here. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And my hope and my faith lies in the fact that I firmly believe that as I continue to do this life, I'm gonna do everything I can, because I know more than just these kids are watching. I know that he's watching, and I couldn't have my son can't look at me and say, "Yo, Dad, you gave up." Nah, bro. No sir. No sir.
Mm.
No sir. Nah, that that's not in my blood,
Right.
because I would never teach him that. And so, really, honestly, man, I found my hope in my faith, and that's what brought me out of that place, because I think about all the people who need. Like I told somebody the other day, there are people drowning. who need you to swim. Period. I got introduced to a world of people that I never knew were broken by the same situation I was in. And I knew that, okay, Lord, all right, good. I'm gonna carry this because I know somebody else who can't. I'm gonna walk tall in this situation because I know that there's somebody out there who's been broken. That's what that's what continues to build my hope and my strength is knowing that God still has me here for a purpose, and so I have to fulfill it because He's watching. So uh, that's what I got for you there.
Man, wow. You just blew my mind into like a million little pieces right now. And thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, it's all good.
And like in what you said, because you said like a lot of things that I think were just profound. I don't think I have the words to honestly like be able to describe like what I'm feeling. But like it's safe. I think it's safe to say that in that life, monumental life changing experience for you, you found hope in your faith. Faith built hope for you. Like,
Yeah,
and that's beautiful, man. That's like a really beautiful thing. And if there's a lesson that I just got out of what you just said, and everything that you just said, is that you should never let the things that you cannot do get in the way of the things that you can do. Because you're someone who, in the most darkest of times, facing some of the most craziest adversities, still were able to rise up out of that and said, just because I feel like there's nothing I can have done in that situation, won't stop me from doing things that I can do in this situation, which is putting yourself in these kids' shoes, like and like thinking of them as your own kid. Like, why don't we have enough people in the world like you, like who have that same concept, that same mentality when dealing with the youth, when working with people? Why don't we have that? And I don't have the answer for that, but I can say from your experience is because your hope was built from the ashes of adversity and was built on faith. And this is not even propaganda for like no faith type stuff. I'm not necessarily like
yeah,
a, but I'm just saying that's a beautiful, beautiful thing, man. So thank you
yeah.
so very much for sharing that.
Oh yeah.
That's
Hey,
crazy.
hey, man, it's all good, bro. And like I said, I ain't nothing special. There's a lot of people out there like me, man.
Mm,
Problem is that a lot of them are in the trenches and they're not in the public. And I
facts.
think that, and believe it or not, there's hardworking mothers and brothers and uncles and dads, and there's a lot of beautiful, hardworking people that you just don't see them. They're unsung heroes, and they're
Right.
out there, and for those who may have lost their hope or lost their faith, understand this: that there is somebody out there who needs you. You have something that the world needs, and I tell everybody this: if you feel like there's nothing left in you, I promise you, if you're still breathing, there is. As long as you have life, there's somebody dying to know
And honestly, that's all facts right there, man. This is on a heavy note, but honestly, I don't even think I want to add anything to this because, like, in what you just said for like 5 minutes, I got like a year's worth of lessons. So, like, thank you for that. Like, dog, like,
you.
I'm not even bullshitting. I feel like that shit was deep.
Hey,
Like,
pleasure, man. Listen,
and
hey, I'm just an instrument, man. That's all, man.
or I feel like Pac said something where one time he was like, if I don't change the world, best believe, and I'm paraphrasing, best believe I will be the person who sparks the mind of the person. I will be the spark that
Mm-hmm.
of the person who changes the world. So
Mm-hmm.
I do believe that we all are capable of extraordinary things, and knowing where you are as a human being and what your gift is very very important. I think honestly, yeah, I think you found yours, man. And I really appreciate you for stepping into your destiny and walking the path that you walk. And I really appreciate you for being here today, brother.
Hey,
Um,
man. Pleasure, brother. Pleasure. Anytime.
we definitely gonna make this a multiple. Like this saying, this is real talk.
Hey,
I'm just saying, man, where can the people like find you? Where can they link up with you on
oh,
social
they,
media and all of that?
yeah, I mean, you can follow me on Instagram at Reach the Poet. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. I've got some music and some speaking and some spoken word poetry, all kind of stuff on my YouTube. Is Reach the Poet as well. And yeah, that's pretty much it. You can follow me on all platforms. I don't have the other platforms. I got IG and YouTube and Facebook, but
Right.
uh, as far as music goes, I've got a little bit of music out there on all the platforms. Reach the Poet, pretty much everywhere you turn.
And it's damn good. I'm not even just saying that. If you go on my social media, I posted that thing. That thing is incredible. Raindrops, right?
Yeah, Raindrops featuring Samara
Samara.
Nicole. I want to
Smart.
give her that shout out.
Yo.
Samara Nicole. She just dropped her EP. It's called My Hallelujah. So
Mm.
go check that out, man. I'm working on a project. We got some stuff coming out pretty soon. So, she's dope.
Where
So
them vocals was hitting every time, man. Those
yeah,
rhymes was
man.
hitting too. Man, I'm telling you, I
Hey,
got
I
something
appreciate
special
it.
right there with Raindrops.
Hey,
Um,
glad. Little message of hope for the dark world, man. A little light in the dark world.
mm, yeah, man. Well, look, man, I appreciate you, brother. And until next time, we'll
Yes, sir.
catch you. So everyone tuning in, thank you so much for tuning in. As always, we'll catch you on the next one. Make sure y'all check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, where you listen to your podcasts on. And make sure you give us a follow on Mentality Radio at Instagram and on Facebook. And until the next time, Reese, I'll catch you later, brother. Deuces.
All right, brother. Peace.